In this video, I am going to explain you an important grammar topic called reported speech. So let us see what is this reported speech. Reported speech we usually use to retell a conversation or a dialogue. There are two types of speeches actually in English grammar. One is direct speech and indirect speech. This direct speech usually comes like with commas and inverted commas, which means the quotations. Like see here, these are direct speeches. John said it is quite hot today. It is quite hot today, he said. It is quite hot today, John said. All these are the structures of the direct speech. You can find direct speeches, direct dialogues and conversations in any of these structures, right? So, in this statement, there are two verbs. See, that John said it is quite hot day. Said is one word and is another verb which is in the, within the quotation. So, here that said is introductory verb, which means main verb which is doing the function. Right, and is the reporting verb. Okay, let us see the next example. Mary said to her mother, I am tired. So here said to is the introductory verb. The said to can come, this introductory, the main verb can come and says also tell, says to, said to, ask. We can claim any of these things. And am, which is in inverted commas, right? It is a reporting verb, right? So, okay, we are going to see four sentences which we are going to change direct speech from indirect speech. Let us see here. There are four types of sentences: statements, interrogatives, imperatives and exclamations. And first let us see the statements. While changing this direct from indirect, we have to change certain changes, not only the verbal changes but also pronouns and determinants and demonstrations and persons also we have to change while changing a statement from direct to indirect. See, let us see that. Statements are affirmations. We can call the statements as affirmation sentences, declarative sentences and negative sentences also. When reporting these types of sentences, we have to take into consideration the changes in personal pronouns, demonstrative determiners, verbal tenses and adverbial expressions of time and place, right? First, let us see this verbal tenses and what verb. I already told you there are two verbs in the same dialogue, which means one is introductory main verb, one more is reporting verb, right? Let us see those changes, what changes has to take, right? When the introductory verb, the main verb is in the present tense, if the main verb is in the present tense, the verb of the words we are reporting does not change, right? So, the thing is, I already told you here, this is the introductory verb, the main verb, right? If this is in the present tense, actually now the said to is past tense, right? So, we have to change. If it is in the past tense, we have to change this tense. If it is in the present tense, we need not to change this tense while converting into the indirect speech. Let us see the example. She says it is a lovely day, right? She says it is a lovely day. While changing this to indirect speech, you should not change the tense of the entire statement. So, in indirect speech, she says it is a lovely day. Actually, we have to add conjunction that here. That here. So, she says that it is a lovely day, right? So, you need not to change the tense of any of this. If, when you should not change, if this introductory verb is in present tense, right? And one more rule is there. What is that? If this is past tense, if it is past tense or present tense or any tense, if you are going to quote a universal truth or fact in the sense, that time also you should not change the tense of this reporting verb. Okay, for example, if the simple present tense is used in the direct speech to express universal truth or scientific truth or proverb, tense should not be changed. Actually, the tense should not be changed. Alright. See, the teacher said, so it can be in present tense or past tense in any tense, but if you are going to quote a universal action, you should not change the verb of the reporting sentence, right? Let us see here. The teacher said the heat expands the bodies. So, it is a normal fact, right? So, while changing this into indirect speech, you can put the same verb here and the same verb here. See that. The teacher said the heat expands the bodies. The teacher said that the heat expands the body. So you should not change, even this is past tense, you should not change the tense, right? So here we have seen two rules. First rule is, if the introductory verb is present tense, you should not change the verb of the reporting verb. And if the introductory verb is past tense and you are quoting a universal truth or habitual action, that time also you should not change the tense of the reporting verb. These two we have seen. Let us see further. So these are the changes you have to make when this verb is past tense and you are not changing, you are not quoting a universal action or reporting verb. I told you here, if it is past tense or any tense, if you are quoting a habitual action, you should not change the tense of this, right? And if this is past tense and you are not quoting universal action, what changes and all we have to make? See here. But when the introductory verb is in the past tense and some verbal changes has to be done, see, this simple present and present continuous, this simple perfect tense, or you have to see it in the reporting verb only, not reported verb. The main verb will be only in present tense and past tense. If the main verb is present tense, you need not to change the tense of the entire statement. If the main verb is past tense, you have to change these tenses accordingly to the reporting verb, right? If the main verb is past tense and if the quoting verb, which means the reporting verb is simple present, change that reporting verb into simple past. If this reporting verb is simple continuous, change that into past continuous. If it is present perfect, past perfect, present perfect continuous, past perfect, all these present has to change into past, right? And if these past itself has come in the reporting verb in the sense, that has to change as simple past to past perfect, past continuous to past perfect continuous, past perfect again to past perfect continuous to past perfect continuous. Nothing but if this present has comes in the, if this present verbs will come in the indirect speech, all these present verbs should change into past verbs, right? Which all these has to done in the reporting verb, not in the reported verb, reporting verb. I'll explain you further. When you see the example, you will come to know. And if this past tense again has come in the reporting sentence in the sense, that has to change into perfect tenses, right? Alright, keep these things in mind while converting direct into indirect. This you have to memorize. Okay, and the next changes are expressions of time and places changes we have to do. This today has to change as that day, tonight has to change as that night, yesterday, the day before yesterday, 2 days before, tomorrow, the day after, or the following day, the next day, the day after tomorrow in 2 days time, 2 days after, ago has to change into before, now to then or that in that moment, here to there. These changes also you have to do while you are converting direct speech to indirect speech. And changes in pronoun, the first person has to change into third person pronoun, right? See that. I have forgotten the combination of my safe. Said, he said. So, this if you are, I already told you there are 3 or 4 structures. So, whenever you are converting that to indirect, this he said, he, John said has to come in the beginning only, right? So, he said, he had forgotten. This is I have forgotten. This present perfect has to change into past perfect. Already I told you this present perfect has to change into past perfect. So here this I have forgotten is present perfect. So we have changed into had, past perfect, and this I first person pronoun has to change the third person, he. So he had forgotten the combination of this my, the pronoun, first pronoun has to change as his, right? Alright, so this changes you have to make while you are changing, and this has to, these has to change as this, that and those. It is that the demonstrative determinants I told you, the changes has to done in demonstrative determinants also, right? This is that. So, this and these has to change into that and those, and in while you are changing this direct to indirect things in statements, the conjunction word that has to use. Alright, so here the conjunction word that. So while changing, he said that he had forgotten the combination of his safe. So the next, the changes in introductory verb. How we have to change this introductory verb while changing direct to indirect speech. If the introductory verb is in present tense, I told you, you need not to change the tense, but you can change the introductory verbs words. If it is in present tense, says, but if it is in present tense, says to, change that to tells. Okay. If it is in past tense, said, go for the same said. If it is in past tense, said to, you can write any of these words according to the meaning of the statement quoted, right, according to the sense, according to the expression expressing by the quoted statement, right. Let us see further. See the example. I don't really like the food here. We will have lunch in the office tomorrow. And said to John. It is a normal statement. So first let us see the introductory verb. So this is the introductory verb. The introductory verb here is the past tense. So obviously we have to change the tense of the reporting verb. Okay. I already told you, if the introductory verb is the past tense, it will be either in past and present. There cannot be any other verb. If it is in present, you need not to change this. If it is past tense, you have to change the tense of the reporting verb. So if it is in past tense, you have to change the tense of the reporting verb according to the tense of the reporting verb only. Let us see the first. I don't like the food here. First thing is, I don't like the food here. This don't, the first reporting verb don't is in past tense, right? Present tense actually, it is in present tense. So you have to change it into past tense, right? Let's next see. And here has to change into there, and we will, present tense has to change into past tense. So this would has to change, will has to change as would. And the next, have lunch in the office tomorrow has to change as the following day. These changes and all we have to do while we are converting. See the result. So I already told you the structure. If anywhere this and said to John, or he said, if comes in the last while reporting to the indirect speech, it has to come in the beginning only. So, and the said to has to told, change to told. A normal statement. So you can tell, you can change it as told, you can change it as advice also, you can change it as suggested also, anything. But it should be in the past tense, right? Okay. And said to John has to change as and told to John that, the indirect verb, the conjunction you have to add that she, this I has to change as she, first person pronoun has to change as third person she, this don't, the present tense has to change as past tense didn't really like the food, this here has to change as they, and they, we has to change as first person pronoun, this we, first person plural has to change as third person they, this will, present tense has to change as would have lunch in the office. Will have should not change as would had. If would comes to the sense, the next obviously will be have only. Would had, there won't be any word like that. So will have has to change as would have lunch in the office. This tomorrow has changed as the following day. So while converting a statement, keep all these changes in mind. You have to change in the introductory main verb and reporting verb. Reporting verb has to change accordingly. If the reporting verb is in present tense, change it into past tense. If it is in past tense, past perfect tense. All these changes you have to do, right? And you have to do changes in the time and place, and you have to do changes in the persons, first person, second persons also. So all these changes has to be made in the statement with the conjunction word that. Here the conjunction word that has to be used, right? Alright, so hope you understand the statement. Let us move for this, the next thing, interrogative sentences. There are two types of interrogative sentences already I told you. One is yes or no questions and one more is WH questions. First let us see this yes or no questions. The conjunction word if has to be used like that we have used in the statement. This if we have to use here, right? Okay. So yes or no questions usually start with auxiliary verb only. So what are the changes? We have to add if first, and the subject verb inversion should be there. Usually while questions, the auxiliary verb will come first and then only the subject should be there. You have to change that there. The subject should come first and then only the auxiliary verb should come in the normal. Why? Because this yes or no questions we are going to change that question into the normal statement. Well, in the actually the indirect speech or the normal statements of the direct speeches, right? So this question statement, while changing into indirect, it will come like a normal statement only. So, and then you should not put question mark. I told you it will convert into a normal statement. The question mark will disappear. And this introductory verb, said and said to, how we have changed previously, like told or advised or suggested. Here we have to change it as asked or inquire or requested, because it is a question statement. We can request, can you please lend me a pen? We can request by questioning, and you can inquire by asking question, and you can ask another question, right? So you can change this introductory verb said and said it to ask, asked or inquired. And if it is in the present tense, you need not to change the tense of the question, right? The tense of the question, most of the time it will come in past tense only while stating statements in introductory sentences. Let us see this example. He asked, is anyone here? He asked, is anyone here? So here introductory verb is past tense. Asked itself is coming here. It can come, right? Okay. He asked, is anyone here? This is present tense. You have to change it into past tense, and the subject verb inversion should be there, and if conjunction word should be used. See, he asked, the conjunction word if, is anyone, the subject verb inversion. So this has to, this anyone comes first, this is the present verb changed into past verb, and it comes there, right? The inversion should be there, and this here has to change into there, right? So he asked if anyone, subject comes first, this is present has to change into past was. So anyone was there. It is a normal statement in indirect, so this question mark disappears. So the second example, did you see the accident? Asked the policeman. When you come up with this did, does and do, that word you should not mention here. Either it is a negative. If it is a negative statement, you can use the did not, like that. If it is a positive statement, you should not use this did or does or did in this thing. So this is a past tense. While changing it, it has to change into past perfect tense, alma. So here let us see. Did you see the accident? Asked the policeman. So it is in the last, it has to come in the beginning. So the policeman asked, the conjunction word if, and you, first person pronoun, has to change as he. So he, the subject comes first. He, and did, past tense, past perfect. So had, past perfect. And if the past perfect had comes in the sense, obviously the next word will be the past participle. Already we have seen in the passive voices, wherever if this have, has and had comes in the sense, the next verb will be past participle verb only. So that see comes here as past participle because had we have put here. So he had seen the accident. Why we have put here past perfect? Because this is past tense. If it is in the past tense, past perfect has to be converted. I already told you, we have seen it in the tabular column. Past perfect, simple past has to change as past perfect tense, right? So this changes we have done here, right? So did is the past tense, so had past past perfect. If past perfect comes in the sense, obviously the next will be the past participle, then only it considered as the past perfect, right? Okay, so seen the accident, no question mark. So these are the changes you have to done while this yes or no questions. Don't forget subject verb inversion. Don't forget to put if and take the question mark away, and change this said to or something is in, if it is said to or something in the sense, change to ask. If only asked in the sense, keep the asked as same, no problem, right? Let's go for this WH questions. So conjunction word is the same WH question itself. Here we have used if, but here you have to use the same WH questions what is already used in the statement. Okay, so here also the subject verb inversion should be, subject comes before the verb. It is not necessary to use do or did if it is there in the statement question. Okay, let us see that. Where does he live? Said Mary. I already told you that do or did or does you need not to mention. So where does he live? Said Mary. It is a present statement, but here the introductory verb is in the past tense, so you have to change this verb, right? So it is in present, so you have to change it to past, right? So this Mary asked has to come first. As it's a question, so the said has to change as asked. So Mary asked the same WH question as conjunction where subject comes first before the verb, right? So subject comes as he. This live has to change as past tense, lived. So this does should disappear. This does did don't should not come. So where does he live? Said Mary. So Mary asked the same conjunction where he, subject comes first, he, past tense, lived. Why? Because it is a present tense, we are changing it to the past tense. So where he lived. So the next time, she asked me, what do you want? So she asked me what do disappears. The subject comes first, I, you has to change this I because he asked me only. So I have to answer. So I, so this what wanted. And question mark disappears. Next, she said, where are you going? Okay, again she asked where. This are auxiliary verb has to change as was. If it is in the past tense, it has to change as was. If suppose it is where are you going? So it is ask. If it is a singular, you can write where I was going. If it is a plural, you are writing we. This are has to convert as where we were going, right? It has to change like that. So accordingly, this are has to change if it is the verb. If it is the subject is singular, this are has to change as past tense as was, and if it is plural, and this was has to change as where. So she said, where are you going? She asked where I was going, right? Next. Why has she completed, right? Do, did, does, it disappears while changing to indirect, and this are has to change accordingly to the subject and past tense while changing it to indirect, and this has and had has to change accordingly. So why has she completed? Present perfect, and it has to change as past perfect. So again he asked the same conjunction word why. She, already it is in the third person, so third person itself she. So next verb should be had completed. So the here comes has comes first while, but changing here subject comes first. So had completed. Whenever we use had, the next should come with past participle. So completed. So these are the changes you have to done while changing into WH questions into indirect statements. Don't forget to put the same word as the conjunction word, and don't do this inversion. Subject should come first and then only the verb, right? Okay, either it may be the auxiliary verb or in the main verb also, it has to come after the subject only, and don't put the question mark. The question mark will disappear. So don't forget to do these changes while changing WH questions into indirect questions. And here also you have to do this adverbial changes and place changes and time changes also if required. Let's go for the third type of sentence, imperative sentences. These imperative sentences can be an advice sentence, recommend, it can be a warning or anything. Alright, let us see here the conjunction word we have to use is to, right? So and this introductory verb said to, how we have changed here as asked, and here we have to change this according to the sense of the statement. If it is demand, go for demanding, demanded, ordered, shouted, threatened, warned, requested. If it is begged, accordingly you can change to the function of the quoted statement. Let us see here. But if it is okay, the conjunction word to here we are using. If it is a negative statement, the conjunction word not to you have to use. Let us see here. He said, get your coat, Tom. So he told Tom to get his coat. Get your coat, Tom is a normal order statement. You can say that ordered also. You can go for a simple told also. Here you can add the verb, subject. So he told, Tom is mentioned here, so you can put here Tom. If it is not mentioned, you just go to directly he told to get his coat only. Here Tom mentioned, so you are mentioning Tom here. He told to Tom. He told Tom, the conjunction word has to use after the introductory verb only, to get his coat. So this your has to change into his, get his coat. If it is in the negative statement, don't swim out too far boys, said the monitor. So here the monitor said is warned you can write, or else or advised you can write, or told simply you can go for. So the monitor advised or warned or told, here boys is there with comma, right. So here boys you have to mention, how we have mentioned here Tom, so here we have to mention the boys. So the monitor told the boys, don't is there, negative statement. So the conjunction word not to, I already told you, if it is the positive go for to, if it is the negative go for not to. So boys not to swim out too far, right. So these are the changes you have to do. Don't forget the conjunction, right. Don't forget to shift the subject, and if it is a negative positive go for to, if it is a negative go for not to. Right, let's go for the next statement, the last sentence called exclamations. Usually we will use this statement to exclaim on something, right. We can use, while using this, we can use some of the words which we are using only to exclaim without any meaning, aha, ayyo, alas. So such words which doesn't have any separate meanings, but we are using that to express our emotions. So at that time also we have to use this that. Why? Because we are changing that normal exclamation sentences into a normal statement. So the same that we have to use like we are using in the statement, right. So here see, exclamation mark should also be disappeared, okay. And this what a beautiful, how beautiful it is. So such things has to change as exclaimed. Let us see here. He said what a dreadful idea, how dreadful it is. While changing it to he said has to change as exclaimed. Said to, anything has to change as exclaimed. He exclaimed, conjunction word that. It's a normal statement. What a dreadful idea. It was a dreadful idea because it should be a past tense, because it is past tense. What a dreadful idea is a present tense. So here past you have to mention here. So it was a dreadful idea. He exclaimed that was a dreadful idea. You can use this also, you can use that it was a dreadful idea. So these are the changes you have to do, right. Okay, in some cases it can that is a dreadful, what a dreadful idea it is. You can like that he exclaimed that it was a dreadful idea. Sometimes there may be some words with that and that, two that's will be there. So at that time you eliminate one that, and he exclaimed that was a dreadful idea. You can go in that way also. So these are the changes you have to make while changing this exclamation, and this exclamatory mark should not be here, right. And sometimes you can get some words with alas we lost the match. So he sorrowfully said, he sorrowfully told, like that also you can add instead of this exclaimed, right. He exclaimed sorrowfully, that he lost the match, like that also you can change that, right. So these are the changes. Don't forget the conjunction, don't put the exclamatory while changing. So these are the changes you have to make in this exclamations. So don't forget these 4 types of sentences. Statements comes with that at the conjunction, and you have to change the verbs accordingly. And interrogative, if in yes or no questions as conjunction, in the same WH as the conjunction for WH questions, and imperative to and not to, and here exclamation again, that is the conjunctions. So don't forget these conjunctions, and don't forget the changes, adverbial changes and adjective changes and place time changes and pronoun changes, all these changes in while converting this indirect statement to, say, direct statement to indirect statements. Go through it. Since you are going to write multiple choice questions, first solve that in side of the paper, in the rough paper, and then search for your best answer in the given options. Like that you can go while marking the MCQs. Alright, so thank you for listening, and if you have any doubt, kindly comment, let me clarify it. Thank you.